G'day, folks. Peter here. Welcome back to Mondays Down Under on the Talking Pools podcast, where I'm joined, of course, by Lee and Shane. How you guys doing?
Hello, Peter. Hi, Shane. I'm very well, thank you.
Hey guys, yep, very good, thank you.
Still got warm weather over there, Lee?
It is sweltering on the east coast, blowing a gale, but sweltering. I have travelled in the last week, travelled down from Queensland, just
Mm-hmm.
over the Queensland border, and now I'm just above Sydney. So we've sort of stopped in a couple of places along the way. Actually, I think last time we spoke, I was at Mooney Bay.
Yes.
Which is in New South Wales. And now I'm I've been to Diamond Beach, which was sort of halfway in between, and I'm now at Entrance, which is, I think it's about an hour north of Sydney. So a beautiful spot on the coast. And I think the temperature today was about 30 degrees. And look, we're the 5th of September. So as much as it is only the early couple of days of spring, it is well and truly summer weather. I don't know whether we're going to get another cold spring, like, you know, how we sort of go hot and then go back to cold for a little bit. I don't know if that's going to happen, but it's certainly, the heat this time has certainly been hanging around. I've been enjoying the warmer weather for the last couple of weeks. Well, prior to that in Brisbane, but yeah, it's been quite warm.
Well, here today, or last Monday, it was beautiful. Blue skies, sun had a bit of bite to it. And I actually popped into Waterco and spoke to Richard, who's one of the head honchos there, been there for donkey's years, and great guy. And he was saying, big smile on his face, and he said, "Oh, spring is here." And I said, "Look at the forecast for the rest of the week." And today it is bitterly cold, blowing a gale. We've had heavy rain, hail, thunderstorms. Remember how at the start of winter I was celebrating that, yes, we got rain. Now I'm quite ready for the hot temperatures and sunshine, thank you very much. The time we've lost having to delay jobs or just sit around waiting for a storm to pass, never seen it this extreme as this season.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
it's extreme on both sides of the country,
Yeah.
from what you were saying, Lee, compared to what you were saying, Peter. I
but
mean,
this is
temperature-wise, how does it compare?
in Perth, spring is always completely unpredictable. You can have weather hot one day, cold, wet, and miserable the next. It's a really confused season. But we can depend on our winters being cool and wet and our summers being bloody hot and very, very dry. So,
I
yeah,
think
inquiries are up though, so we just need to catch up on jobs.
that's a good thing. Look, I think the seasons definitely on the eastern side of the country are all a little skewy. For like only 2 weeks ago, Mount Hotham, one of our ski regions, ski fields, has actually closed their season prior to the end of August, which is just really unheard of. And like, I've actually even skied in October at Perisher, so that's still a month away, and yet here we are. The ski season, yeah, in Victoria has been shut. Perisher in New South Wales, I think, is holding on by the skin of its teeth, but yeah, certainly not what it normally is at this time of the year. And with the heat that northern New South Wales and southern Queensland and the areas that I've been to are experiencing. Even, I think I saw on the news, I think it was out Broken Hill Way, so that's west, off the east coast, but west inland, 15 degrees above normal temperatures for this time of the year. So that's
That's
substantial.
huge. That's huge. And of course, we're talking Celsius here, so
Yeah,
that's a
yeah,
big difference.
It's going to
So
be a very long, hot, dry summer for some parts of Australia by the sounds of things.
look, obviously we all love an early start to the season, and we all love a late finish to the season because it makes our seasonal work less seasonal, really. It makes it last longer and income's better for longer. But it's we all look forward to the break, but we also look forward to the money that comes with our busyness. The good thing is, I suppose, at the moment we're experiencing experiencing an economic downturn.
Yes.
And they're saying that the spend per capita is well down. Well, they're saying it's well down, but they're saying it's not as far down as previously, but they reckon the capita numbers are actually being boosted because of immigration. So therefore, that's actually giving us a false sense of security in our spend per capita.
But one thing to clarify there, you said they're saying that. Who's saying it? Is the media who wants to inspire fear and panic in everyone, or the government who wants to
the government
minimise the impact?
Yeah. So that's exactly right. I think it's the government that are actually saying at the moment that, hey, the spend per capita isn't as low as it probably would have been or should have been. It's actually much better. And then the media are actually saying, but hey, hang on, what you're not acknowledging is the fact that our numbers are boosted because of immigration. Our immigration numbers are up at the moment, which is increasing our per capita number base, and therefore the spend is, or the lack of spending is not showing itself to be as true as it probably should be, or as low as it should be. So interesting. But
it's not surprising when the Reserve Bank's put up interest rates that many times over the last couple of years or so, and people just don't have the disposable income.
Yeah, you only have to go to the supermarket and buy a few groceries. Like I went today and bought one bag literally of groceries, and it was $39 worth of groceries.
That's because you go for the caviar and the truffles. No,
well, I do have to admit, I did buy a hot chook. Roast chicken.
I haven't bought one of those for years.
That was a good $12. But yeah, other than that, it was just bread and some bread rolls and some salad for dinner, and just staples really. And only one bag of groceries, and it was $39. So
no wine in that bag, Lee?
Sorry, what was that?
No wine in that bag?
No, that was the second shop.
I was going to say, that didn't look like a very convincing no when she said it.
It's a long pause, wasn't it? Oh, that's an interesting bottle of wine.
It was on special. I couldn't say no.
Oh, revealing you're in a bogan there, Lee.
People are spending their money on, everybody in Australia. This is what they're spending their money on.
Alcohol.
So I have to admit, I spent more in the bottle shop than I did in the groceries. Does that say something?
Says I can relate.
Australian thing. Yeah.
But and I've mentioned this previously. When interest rates went up significantly, I noticed more people going for repair or spare parts on pool equipment rather than replacements.
Yes.
And I think that's just going to get worse, although we are doing well with equipment, even though the season is still pretty crappy outside.
Well, one good thing that might come from that, if you are a service business that offers repairs, and I think most of us should, like if it's a viable repair, then it needs to be considered. The internet sellers can't do that.
Yeah.
So that's a positive. So actually use that to your advantages. And I think the thing is, for all retailers and service at the moment, is being mindful of the situation. So first and foremost, watch your cash flows. Make sure your clients are getting their bills paid promptly. Don't let them string them out. Really keep a close rein on them. You don't want them getting out of control. The next thing is to consider like repairs over replacement for your clients, but also for you, because like, let's face it, yes, you would rather make a pump sale and make a couple of $100 or a few $100s, but you could make a repair and still make a decent amount of labor, and at least you're keeping your staff employed. You're keeping the customer happy if something is a viable repair.
And you're not losing a client.
No, absolutely. Be mindful of their situation. Like, you might have a client that wants to stay on your regular service list, but maybe wants to push out their servicing. Now, we all know that's not ideal, but what can we do to help them do that? Do we get them to come into the shop in between our services so that They're keeping a closer eye on it. Talk to your customers. Don't see what you can do to help them. If they're in a financial situation like that, they'll appreciate it, and you'll be securing a customer for life. But also look at what you can offer your customers as far as maybe they're getting a vacuum and they as part of their service, and you could take that out and they could save a few dollars. You're still going to retain them as a customer better than them cancelling their service altogether. And then hopefully when the economic situation improves, then can come back on. But don't stop marketing. Like, we have a tendency to stop spending, and totally get that. We do need to watch what we're actually spending our money on, but don't forget to promote yourself. Direct marketing is really important. And I think the best thing that we actually lose sight of is prevention is easier and cheaper than cure. And that's what we need to pass on to the clients. Being proactive, especially your non-regular clients. Your regular clients are already being proactive because they've got you on board and you're doing that for them. But the irregular clients is encouraging them to actually come into the shop more often, to get their water tested, buy the bits and pieces as they need them, as opposed to doing a big green pool cleanup. It's going to cost them a lot more to do that. So prevention is easier and cheaper than cure. So try to promote that with them. Promote regular visits, regular tests in store, and that then in turn will hopefully give you a bit more income coming through the door, a little bits more often, maybe. And yeah, just trying to be proactive instead of being reactive. I find that's really important in business. Be proactive, not reactive.
Buffer Zone Systems are the pool and spa industry specialists with a complete range of software for pool shops, service companies and commercial aquatic facilities. With more features and integrations than any other pool industry software, you really need to reach out for a one-on-one demonstration. Contact Buffer Zone today.
Other things that I find useful for that is, there's nothing like a good spring clean. If somebody is, being difficult or refusing to pay or whatever, just get rid of them. There will always be, no matter how bad things get, there will always be good customers coming in.
Yes.
The other thing, things like efficiency of your route,
Completely.
Keep the same area on the same day. If a customer says, I need you here on, 10 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, and you're at the other end of town on that day, then, well, no, that's simply we're not available unless you want to pay a travel fee just to cover the time lost. Because some customers will walk all over you if you give them the chance.
Yes, absolutely. Efficiency of routes, I actually think, is something that people really need to look at every season. I did with our business. I reviewed it every July. I would get out all of my clients and look, to be quite frank, it's quite simple to do. Everybody out there, your database should be able to export your customer information to an Excel spreadsheet. You export that to an Excel spreadsheet. You then sort by suburb. After you've sorted by suburb, you sort by street address. Once you've done that, that will give you all your suburbs somewhat in street order. Like, obviously it doesn't know where the streets are, but it's going to give it to you in alphabetical order. So at least you're going to have the same three properties that are in the same three streets are going to be together on that list. And then from there, you can actually then make your route more logistically sensible and, like you say, reduce that expense, that travel time expense, the petrol expense, the tolls expense if you're in an area that has tolls on the roads, especially Sydney and Brisbane. So trying to actually revise your service schedule and do that every year so that you're identifying gaps. It actually will give you the gaps in your schedule so that you know, hey, this is a suburb that I can actually pick up a few more in, or this is a couple of block radius and I could fit a couple more in, and then hone in, use Google Maps, open up
Use
Google
an AI route optimizer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. A lot of the programs
BufferZone's got
now.
one.
Yep.
Or use BufferZone.
Yes.
Very true.
No, just stick them all into an AI route optimizer, and it will show you the most direct, the most efficient way of going between jobs, between sites. Obviously, you will need to tweak it a little bit after it's come up with the order to allow for things like traffic conditions at certain times of day, which the good ones will account for. So, I mean, it's what courier companies always use, and they're all about efficiency.
Yeah. Well, time, let's face it, time's money. If you're paying your staff to sit in a car to drive between jobs, the last thing you want to be doing is wasting hours a day doing that when they could actually be earning money. So, and the other thing is, like I said, it does also then identify the gaps in your schedule where you could potentially be looking for more, and then going to Google Maps and actually zooming in and looking for those pools in the backyards is an easy way of identifying a few extra addresses. Mailbox, drop them, let them know that you're available. Hey, we were in your area this week and we'd love to be of service to you. You know, it's a direct hit with your marketing. Your marketing dollar is not being wasted. It's going straight to the letterbox of somebody that has a swimming pool, and it's somebody you want on your route. It's easy.
It's funny you should say that, Lee. I was coming out of one of my regulars yesterday, and as I was coming out, somebody was putting something in the mailbox. I was looking at his t-shirt, like, blue. You know, it's kind of a standard color for the pool industry. And walked past, and it had a logo on there. I won't say the company, but it said pools. And you see mine as well. I see mine. He's just started chatting. He's like, oh yeah, I've just started my own business, and
right,
exactly the same thing. Google Maps. He wants to cover that area, and he was just basically dropping flyers into mailboxes. So I mean, it made no difference to me. I mean, they are a very loyal client, but I thought it was quite funny to actually experience that as I was walking out. He was popping one in the mailbox.
Now I have to ask you, how did it make you feel? In your stomach, how did it make you feel?
I was, when I seen the pools, I was a little bit taken back. It was like, oh, this guy's trying to save my client. But, you know, as we start talking to each other, you know, he was in exactly the same situation as what we were 3 years ago. I was doing exactly the same thing, looking for houses with pools on Google Maps, following the same procedure. So, yeah, I'd take my hat off to him. He's thinking outside the box rather than just waiting for work to come to him. You know what I mean? It's being proactive again.
Yeah.
There's another approach. If somebody tries to sell something to me, they put a flyer in the letterbox or they cold call, I've immediately turned off, just not interested. That's why I don't sign up to 6 new SEO packages a day when someone from another country rings me and says they'll get me on the first page of Google. Even though in my area, I'm definitely on the first page of Google. When you've got a customer who you can tell they're happy, like really happy, get them to tell their neighbours. You're already on that street. Why not fill in your route with 2, 3, 5, 10 other pools on that street? You know, if you can make a day of jobs within a kilometre of each other, perfect. What's better than that? Also, I've had a few of them where I've been doing typically they're fairly major jobs. And as you walk into the backyard, you might notice the neighbour's pool is in a terrible condition. And when they say, you know, at the end, good job, glad you did it, thank you. So that's my pleasure. How well do you know your neighbour? And I've got quite a few times I've had major jobs. I'm talking green pool recoveries with equipment sales, because I just said, how about you have a chat with your neighbour? Would you do that for me?
Yeah.
And then I explained, look, the state of that pool there is going to be growing all sorts of microbes. Mosquitoes are going to breed. They're going to carry it. Cite an example in California, I think it was 2007, if I'm not mistaken, where West Nile virus spread through certain areas. because of unmaintained pools. Not fear-mongering, but just tell them, look, this is a public health issue, not just people in that pool. So that's a very effective one. Their neighbour will respond much, much better to their neighbour or friend telling them, look, you've got to speak to Pete, got to speak to Shane, Lee, whoever, rather than just getting a random bit of crap in the mailbox.
Yeah, and look, that's where I'm not a big fan of your standard flyers touting everything that you do. I'm more about marketing to the relationship.
Yeah.
Something fun and quirky as a major picture, almost like that's why I like postcards, because postcards used to be something that we got in the mail that was fun because someone was on holidays and was sharing their joy of their holiday experience, and we were thinking of that we'd rather be on holidays with them as we're eating them, that sort of thing. So I think that's how I think of postcards, and I like sort of quirky pictures that make you smile, something a bit different, whether it be a dog in a life ring on a pool, or not that you want to encourage dogs in pools, but
no.
kids having fun, something that invokes happiness and a pleasant reaction, and then just simply we're in your street, we'd love to be of service to you too. So not actually spruiking like we sell chlorinators and pumps and filters and chemicals and this and that and that and that. It's just a general, we'd love to help you too, because we're helping your neighbours sort of thing.
Yeah.
So that's sort of how I always played that card. But and I have to say, while we're talking about current topics, because like current economy and that sort of thing, did you see on the news over the last few days, they're talking about the Reserve Bank actually changing the rules around surcharging on credit cards?
Yeah, you mentioned that.
So I don't know what they do in the US. I'm assuming they do something similar. In Australia now, a lot of businesses pass on a surcharge when somebody pays by credit card, getting more and more common because everyone now is paying by tap and go, or by PayWave or tap and go, whatever you want to call waving your credit card over the machine. And now the banks, mind you, have got a bit anti about it because they're getting a bit of backlash. Now, the thing is, the banks are making their money. The banks pushed everybody towards credit cards and plastic, and this is going to be more efficient. You're going to be able to access your money all the time.
Yep.
And if you get a debit card, it's low fees and all of that sort of thing. But then the poor retailer at the end, now that people aren't using cash, everybody that buys something in your store or pays their bills with their credit card, we're the ones lumping the bills. And I know our listeners out there will share the pain of all three of us that have experienced hundreds and thousands of dollars in fees every year that we're paying for our customers to access their money. But I actually think of it this way. We're doing the bank's job for them. Laid off their tellers. They've laid off, and believe me, I did many, many moons ago work in a bank. And so I was actually what they called an examiner, where you actually had to go manually through every deposit check and every check. And they got filed at the end of the day in your branch. They got sent to you from all around Australia, and you actually had to file them. And that was one of my jobs.
That sounds like fun.
Or is batshit, but anyway. So the thing is, all of those jobs no longer exist. Tellers, you're lucky if you go into a bank and there's one or two tellers behind the counter.
Lee. Sorry. Go into a bank. Are there any bank branches left on your side of the country?
They're closing them at a rate of knots.
Yep.
The tellers, if they do have a branch, they've only got one or two tellers behind the counter. I even got charged one day for having cash counted.
Yes.
At my own bank.
Yes.
And it's like, hang on a minute. I actually rang my bank manager and I went, I've been charged $15 for you to, because somebody had paid me for a spa in cash. they'd paid me, I think it was $12,000 in cash. So I took the $12,000 into the bank and they charged me $15 to count it. And they didn't tell me over the counter that they were going to charge me that. They took the money out of my bank account.
Yeah.
So I rang my business manager. I said, what the are you doing? Like, what does a bank do if it doesn't count cash?
Exactly.
And I said, I have never heard anything so ludicrous in my life. And then he proceeded to tell me that I could have actually put it through the teller machine at the front, through the ATM machine, and it wouldn't have cost me anything. So these guys are pushing all of the business away from the banks, but then they're charging us for people to use their credit cards, and they're not wanting us to pass on the surcharge. I'm sorry, I'm not doing your job for you.
And also,
and paying you to do it.
and also, with all of the frequent flyer and point schemes associated with credit cards these days, spend so much and you get whatever benefit, a useless piece of junk or reduced airline tickets or whatnot. If we have to cover those bank fees for the convenience of the customer using a credit card, why should we be the ones having to pay for their holiday in Bali or things like that?
Absolutely.
You're right. Banks make a stupid amount of money.
They should be covering it.
Commonwealth Bank, what was it, 10 billion in the last year, I think I heard? One of the big four banks in Australia. They're charging people with a mortgage huge interest rates, but when they borrow money from the Reserve Bank, it's a pittance. They barely pay interest at all. So, I think it's very wrong, but unfortunately, the banking industry has more clout than the retail industry.
Well, it was funny that only a few years ago, it was your big guys like your airlines and your big chain motels and places like that used to do the surcharge. You couldn't buy an airline ticket without paying a surcharge. You couldn't book a major motel room without paying a surcharge. You couldn't buy a ticket on one of the ticket tech event sites without paying a surcharge. So they're all big players. It's not until the little guys have all gone, hey, hang on, if they're all doing it, why can't I? And so now all the little retailers, because it really hurts our bottom line. And if you're out there and you are not surcharging your clients for their credit card payments, you need to start quickly before they stop it. Hopefully they won't stop it. I think somebody needs to stand up to these guys. The government needs to stand up to these guys and go, hang on a minute, the little guys are doing your job for you. How about you actually suck up and pay your own surcharge, and the customers can use their own money. Now, if they want to use credit card, fair enough. The customer can pay for the right to use their credit card if they want that benefit. But if it's a debit card and they're using their own money, if it's fair enough that the retailer shouldn't be able to pass on the surcharge, but neither should the bank be able to charge us for that client using their own money.
Yeah, well, there's already merchant fees for use of the bank facilities for taking card payments. The most ridiculous one is if ever you've bought tickets online for anything and you've got online payment, you put everything through on their website, but then and tickets come to you digitally, so all automated, but then they charge you a service fee. $8 extra for the ticket to this concert or whatever. Service fee. What damn service was there? So I don't know. The world's gone to pot.
It's like restaurants now where you've got the QR code stuck on the table or stuck on the menu or wherever.
I love that.
And you click the QR code. You flick through the meals. You make your choices, and then at the end it says, "Do you want to leave a tip?" What the for?
Yeah, I like those QR codes though.
Just ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't have to go up to the bar to order or up to the counter to order, depending on the place. I don't have to disturb the conversation I'm having with whoever I'm seated with. I think they're great, but would you like to leave a tip?
Yeah.
However, you do get quicker service if you leave a tip.
Really?
I've tested it.
Oh, okay.
You get quicker service because they think, oh, this person's tipping. There's benefit to us to serve them more quickly. because then they'll buy the next round or whatever it may be, or next course, and I'll get another tip then.
Yeah.
So admittedly, I don't tip on the last thing I order.
I was going to say, like, tipping for service, don't get us started. That's another US thing. It's like metric versus imperial, isn't it? Well, we won't go there. But
I've been there recently, don't worry.
Tipping when you've got no service other than them bringing out and sticking the plate in front of you. And yes, obviously the chef is a service, but the fact is they haven't come to you, they haven't taken your order, they haven't helped you with your choices, they haven't even asked how you are, they haven't even bought you a bottle of water, nothing, and they want a tip. Sorry, ain't going to happen on my watch.
I will mention for our American listeners that tipping isn't a big thing in Australia.
No.
Should we
especially where Lee goes.
The pool pros to get tips as well? Maybe we should start advocating for that.
I have actually got a couple of we have got a couple of tips over the years, but not many. Like, I could really count them on two hands. Yeah. So
normally around the dreaded
sorry, carry on.
Normally around the dreaded time of year, which is coming up, which we'll talk about in a moment.
Oh, yes.
But there occasionally a customer will give us a carton of beer or a bottle of wine, or
yeah.
There's nothing like a bottle of red that's been sitting in a hot truck for the last 6 hours in 40 degrees of heat. But we'll occasionally get that, occasionally a cash tip, but it's very, very rare.
Yeah.
I was given a box of Ferrero Rochers the other day in Australia.
Oh, that would have been liquefied.
By a very wealthy single Chinaman. I was like, okay, is this guy after something else? So that was quite peculiar. Never had a box of Ferrero Rochers as a tip before.
I was going to say, did they melt by the time you got home?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. No, I did actually have one customer. We did a repair job on their spa, and they were very happy. So he actually gave us I think it was $100 tip, and said, "Go out for dinner." So
best one I've ever had. Customer called me out. I'd recently installed a new suction cleaner for him, and he rang me. "Oh, Pete, this bloody thing isn't working," and blah blah blah. I said, "Okay, Mick, I'll come out there. I'll sort it." Had to go out there and turn the turn a valve on the suction line, maybe 1/12, 1/16 of a turn, just to correct the flow a little bit. Minor adjustment. And he had a chat for 5 minutes. And on the way there, I rang the wife and said, "Oh, what are we doing for dinner tonight?" As you do. We don't know, have a think about it. Went to this guy's place, did the job. 5 minutes of chat. He said, "Oh, I'll fix you up for that." And I saw him walking towards his fridge, and I thought, what the hell? Anyway, this guy actually used to be a cray fisherman, and lobster fisherman, and he used to do that. Look at Lee's eyes widening up. Anyway, next thing I know, he's put 4 lobsters, caught that morning and just boiled, and he knew how to do it. He put them in a foam cooler, got ice from his ice machine, put it on there, and said, "There you go, have that." Wow, thank you.
Wow.
Lobsters at the time were selling for something like $100 each.
Yeah.
Right, but he had more than he knew what to do with. So gave me that. And as we're walking to the door, I'm being extremely grateful, genuinely. Then he says, "Oh, you need something to go with that." And he walks into his side room and he pulls out a couple of bottles of wine. And he said, "Oh, here's a red for you and a white for the wife." And my wife doesn't really drink at all. So I said, "Look, that's way too generous." "No, it isn't. Shut up." And off we go. They're putting it in the truck, and he comes up, "Oh, I didn't pay you for that. Pay you for coming out." And I said, "Mick, come on, you've been more than generous." He says, "Oh, shut up. If you don't take my money, you go broke," and something to that effect. "So take the money and fuck off." I said, "Okay, Mick, thank you." I want more customers like that. So I rang the wife. "Oh, honey, I've got dinner sorted."
Wow, that's spectacular.
I ate like kings that night, I tell you.
We all want more customers like that.
The other thing with this guy is if he has a minor problem with his pool, for example, a filter element needs replacing in a cartridge filter, he'll get an entire new set, pump, filter, heater, chlorinator, the whole lot. And I'll say, mate, you don't need to spend all that, just the element. Oh, it's getting old anyway, just replace it. You can't argue with the guy. He's got more money than God, but very generous, really top guy.
Oh. Yep, we certainly we look after those ones. We look after the nice.
Now, when he says I've got a problem with my pool, it's okay. I'll throw in the next 3 jobs and make that a priority.
Hey, and look, he's not stupid. He knows what that brings.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, he knows.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, it's good. It's nice to have customers that appreciate us. So,
yes. Anyway.
What else is on the current hit list at the moment?
Foreboding season. I don't want to mention the C word, but Christmas. Yes. Oh, humbug.
Well, the season is really only just starting, but boy, has it started with a bang here on the East Coast anyway. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a great season, and I think that will hopefully work in our favour with the economy. So people will be using their pools more because maybe they'll be staying at home more. If the season's longer, they'll be getting more use out of it. And look, people don't mind spending money on their pools when they're using them. Let's face it.
Yeah.
It can be a great source of relaxation or fun for the family. So really angle your marketing and your customer interactions towards those sort of things. And I think it'll really help with your dollars and boosting your job numbers over the season. But
enough. You're frozen there. I missed that because the screen froze. I think it's the storm affecting my internet connection.
I said we've got 3.5 months till Christmas.
Great. But yeah, if the weather's warmed up on the East Coast, then that would kickstart the season, same as us every year. As soon as the first warm weather's forecast, our phone just goes bat crap crazy, especially with green pool recoveries and pumps not working. Pump could mean anything from a robotic cleaner to a filter to a chlorinator to, I don't know, the kid's bicycle. I don't know. But no, I'm looking forward to that. I'm hoping for a big, busy season.
We've got an extra tech on now, so we've got to make him earn his keep.
Oh yeah. No, they're doing well. We actually find some jobs it's worth sending 2 people out on in the same vehicle.
Absolutely.
Just because while one's sorting out the filter baskets, all that sort of thing, the other one can be vacuuming, chemistry, and yeah, a job goes much, much quicker. Yes. Or if there's a lot of heavy lifting involved, my guys who work for me are still in their 20s. So I'd rather them be carrying the bags of salt, the bags of filter media than me. I went to the chiropractor last night and I tell you what, it hurt like a mongrel.
Well, look, let's face it. If you've got a really big day ahead or even a really big job that you've got to tackle, if you've got somebody there to share that load with, it makes it so much more manageable, so much more palatable. It doesn't seem as daunting or as arduous task doing that job by yourself, and so might make for a happier employee, and then hopefully an employee that stays around a lot longer. So sometimes it really is worth sending 2 out. We always found that whenever we had a season startup, especially one that had a winter clean cover on, one of those ones that are pegged down around, we always sent 2 guys to those, because it is a far too big a job for one person to do by themselves. And so, yeah, you pick and choose the days. I always tried to make it so that a couple of days every month was spent with the 2 techs spent together, or 2 of my techs spent together. So, yeah, I think it's good. It helps build camaraderie. And more of a team environment. So, yeah, for sure. And sometimes, too, it's a great learning experience for your less experienced tech to go with your more experienced tech to learn something that they don't normally do.
Yeah, that's a big one. Rather than make them figure it out on their own, if it's a job they've never done, but I've done it 100 times over the years, it can be well worth them being out there to do it. Had a few jobs like that recently. And yeah, they're just, oh, never done this before. And I let them try to figure it out, but I give them pointers along the way.
Yeah.
So I can still get them in the habit of problem solving on their own. Because face it, how many times in this industry do we have to improvise? You know, there might be a part that hasn't been available for the last 30 years. And you
Yes.
have to find a way to work around it. So I'm big on teaching people the principles, not just the specifics.
Yeah, absolutely. I used to say to my guys, try and think of a solution. You might not be able to solve the actual problem on the spot, but you may be able to find a temporary solution that is going to limp them through. So whether that might be a split filter that you can put on recirculate for a couple of days so that the system can still turn over. Maybe it's a leaking union on the multi-port head that you can swap out with the one on the waistline, so that, because the waistline one only gets used when you're backwashing, so you can swap the unions around. Things like that. It's finding a solution that is going to be a short-term fix that allows you to keep moving and keep working, and also that pool keep running. But Shane, you're a single polar, so how do you handle those sort of things?
Call you guys.
Yeah, I'll jump on a plane and help you with a bag of media. That's the way.
He gets his team and camaraderie one afternoon a week when the three of us get together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I mean, if there are any big jobs coming up, we've read go backtrack a little bit. We've recently started a little networking group. So there's 7 of us that we can all rely on. If we're going on holiday, if any of us are off sick, you know, we can kind of help each other out with our regulars. So at least we're not going to lose those clients. But if there are big jobs which are coming up, the majority of these guys are a phone call away. You know, how are you placed for next week, next Tuesday, to do a big media change or whatever it may be. A couple of the guys, they're pretty new, so they're still looking for work. Some of the other guys, they're wanting to grow their business and take on more staff. So they've all got their little niches at the moment.
Yeah.
So depending on what job comes up, you can kind of pick which one to use, and it works very well. And they're all trustworthy. They're good at what they do.
They're not going to take your customers off you.
Exactly.
That's important.
Yeah, that's good that you've got that network. So, and I think too, for the single polars out there, having podcasts like this is really beneficial, because it lets you know that while you're out there working alone in your own business, you're actually not alone. There's lots of us out there that are doing the same thing, and don't be afraid to reach out for to bend somebody else's ear, or to get a helping hand, or to get some advice. Before we
collaboration, it's just so much easier than competition. You know, there's plenty of work out there for everybody.
Yeah. And almost mentorship. There's a couple of guys in the industry who have approached me, and I said, right, you keep asking me these questions. Do you want me to mentor you? And they're just, wow, that'd be fantastic. So that's good. And a couple of times in the past, I've said to them, I've got this unusual job. Do you want to come along and learn how it's done?
Yeah.
And they generally appreciate that.
That's fantastic.
One last current affair type thing that we need to mention, and more so everyone out there is aware of it. Australian Standard AS 1926.1, which is swimming pool safety, part 1, safety barriers for swimming pools. Day before, 3rd of September. When you're listening, we recorded this last week. Standards Australia has updated that standard. So if you've got anything to do with pool fencing, and that includes if you're a service tech and you go out to a job and need to be able to identify if there's a problem with the fencing, which we all do, we all should do, going to be well worth having a look into that. Apparently the changes have been introduction of new definitions, clarification and simplification of clauses, new and improved diagrams, new section for plants located with an NCZ, a non-climbable zone, which is a big one, because a lot of people last had their pool inspected, maybe 2 to 4 years ago. Since then, the plants near their fence or their safety barrier have grown and they're no longer compliant. I see that as a big problem on a lot of pool inspections that I do for especially pool buyers. More marking of gate latches and hinges. I'll let you know what that is when I read up on it. And increased cycles and frequency of testing gate components. So we'll see what that is. We'll talk about that in coming weeks after we've all had a chance to, or at least Lee and I don't know how it is in New Zealand, Shane, after we've had a chance to talk about it. But one thing that I do like on the Standards Australia website, on their page about this, they do note that barriers form a part of a broader strategy. And that includes supervision, safety barrier inspections, swimming lessons, which I'm a big advocate of, first aid, and public education. Swimming lessons for me is the ultimate. Teach your kids to swim.
I think I've mentioned previously on a podcast, we actually sponsored swimming lessons.
Yes, that's right.
Every term we gave away a whole term of swimming lessons free. And that was given out as a gift to one of the students at the swimming school, a kids swimming school. So a great way to get your business name out there, but also doing a really good thing and promoting safety around pools. The other thing I would strongly suggest, and here's a great idea for everybody, get friendly with somebody in your area that teaches CPR, and then offer a free afternoon at your business premises or maybe somewhere nearby, where this person will come along and teach CPR. And you're not going to give them you're not going to give them like a certificate in life-saving or anything like that. Like it's not a St. John's ambulance training course.
An accredited course, yeah.
Yeah, it's not an accredited course by any means, but you're just teaching them CPR for drowning. And invite all your customers and put on a sausage sizzle if you want. But it's a great thing to do to promote water safety. And you could also then invite the local swim schools to come and have a table or sprig their wares or whatever, if you so wished. So you could make it a bigger event. But I would always, suggest there's something you can do for your customers. Have a CPR school for them. It might cost you a bit to pay the person to do the CPR. It might not. It might be somebody that actually, I was fortunate, our local swim school that we sponsored, their head instructor was actually a trainer of CPR. And so she was actually able to do the delivery of those sort of sessions free of charge. And she was happy because it actually promoted her swim school as well. And we were supporting her swim school by doing the donating. So it was reciprocal. So there's an idea for you.
Great idea.
I like that idea very much. But no, if you are involved with pool fencing, check that out. They've got information on standards.org.au, and then you can purchase the copy of the standard itself. We've covered a few topics today.
We have all current ones that are applicable to everyone.
Yeah. No, good one. You guys have a fantastic week. Everyone listening, you also have a fantastic week. And if you have any topic requests or comments, please send them on to talkingpools@gmail.com, and we'll do our best to address them. But in the meantime, stay safe out there. Hooroo.
See you, everyone.